Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais with the week that was on the Yakking Show on Friday, the 23rd of November. Wow, a month from Christmas. Isn't that amazing? This year has just flown by. Not going to dwell on the weather because our weather is dreary. First big snowfall coming this weekend. Anyway, we've had an interesting week, so let's kick it off with talking about. Wrong. First, let's introduce our co-host, Kathleen. I nearly forgot there. Kathleen, hi. Sorry about that. I got carried away. How are you this morning?
No worries, Peter. I'm just, I'm just here. Thanks. Hello, everybody.
Kathleen's the most unforgettable person I know, and I nearly forgot about her. I do apologize. So let's get back on track. Our guest on Tuesday was Emily Thiroux Threatt, all the way from Hawaii, and her speciality is helping people find happiness through grief. And I know that that sounds like an oxymoron, but you actually need to watch the video or listen to the audio and hear what Emily has to say. She had some really good pointers, and we asked her a lot of questions about, how long is it normal to grieve, and can there be expectant grief, and all sorts of things. So I found it very good, and I would think very comforting for people who've just lost you or grieving for a loved one. What about you? What did you think, Kathleen?
You're right, Peter. It is an oxymoron. So when we first interviewed her, that was our first question. Well, how on earth can you put happiness in with grief? And it's basically how to cope through grief and still find some measure of happiness in the rest of your life. Yes, you are going to grieve that loss, whatever loss it is that you're experiencing, but it doesn't mean that it overshadows the rest of your life and the rest of what's going on around you. And so I think she really helps people that are grieving to put it sort of into perspective, and just has wonderful tips on how to balance that grief, and also to allow happiness to filter in without feeling guilty, because a lot of people that are in the process of, or who have just lost a loved one, or even been through a divorce, which is a loss. You grieve that loss too. They feel guilty for being able to move on, or even if they're at a gathering and they're smiling and laughing, and then they check themselves because, well, why are they laughing? They should be sad, right? So she provides some wonderful tips for people that way.
Yeah, no, she was good. And she has a book. She has a book called, and we'll feature it in our newsletter this week, the Handbook on Grief and Happiness. That was Tuesday. Then today we do this video, but next Tuesday we will have a gentleman called Jimmy Burroughes, and he has an English accent, but he's worked in the corporate world in many different countries of the world and gained a huge amount of experience. And now he's moved to Mexico, and his speciality is helping busy executives escape burnout and deal with stress in their jobs and try and find a healthy balance between their work and their life demands. And he gave some amazing statistics, and I don't want to spoil your fun, but I was horrified at the number of emails, for instance, some top executives are expected to handle in a day. I mean, if I did that, I'd do nothing else all day. And these poor guys do that and don't get enough sleep. There's lots of good tips in his interview. What did you think about Jimmy, Kathleen?
Yeah, again, gosh, we have so many wonderful guests on this show, Peter, and they provide such valuable information to our audience. They really do. And he certainly wasn't any exception, because how many people out there are experiencing burnout because they're constantly in a rut? They're spinning their wheels, trying to just keep up, and they can't. It's just it's an endless it's an endless hamster wheel, really.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's getting off that hamster wheel, and he tells you how to go about doing that.
Yeah, no, he was good. So while I was still on business, I found a couple of interesting news items this week. There's an increasing number of retail stores throwing out their self checkouts. Canadian Tire in
You
North
believe
Bay
that?
is the
Imagine that.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Several Walmart stores in the USA and booths in the UK. they're finding, as I find, I hate using them and I won't use them if I can possibly avoid it. People are complaining they like personal service. They like to be able to chat to the cashier and be dealt with personally. The other big problem is they find that the self-checkouts are a huge opportunity for shoplifters, and they're finding that between theft and customer error, they're losing thousands, millions, in fact, of losses, which they can't afford. So the tide is changing or turning on that one. The other interesting one that I've picked up was there's a shortage of electricity poles in North America because of the increasing demand for electricity, not mainly, but in particular from charging stations for electric vehicles. The utilities are having to put in new power lines and put in heavier capacity power lines, so they need more poles, and there's a shortage of big trees to make telephone poles. I found that an interesting one. The end of that little story is that the share price of the two major companies who supply poles to utilities in America has gone up way above the Dow Jones average or the average for Wall Street. So it might be an idea to invest in electricity poles.
There you go.
I got a couple of little health tips for the end, but I know Kathleen's got a big health tip, so I'm going to hand over to Kathleen for your one. You go for it.
Well, this week we'd like to give a shout out to Bobby Aldridge's BAM metrics, and we will give a link to that in this video. So what Bobby did was he's a physiotherapist by trade, and he developed this whole system of increasing a person's mobility, because the belief is if you increase mobility, you actually get better at sports. So it's not just about strength training, it's increasing your mobility. And in fact, there's a lot of studies out there that show that increasing your mobility will help you, in fact, with your golf swing faster and get better ball speed, everything. And he does it in such a measured way. So he's actually developed a mat that has grids on them, and he provides the training videos, and it's actually measured out. And it helps. The way that they do it is that it reduces any injuries. So the risk of injury in doing these particular movements is really reduced. So it's something to check out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
His whole system is very affordable, and Bobby, it would be great to even get in touch with Bobby himself if you're an athlete and looking to increase your mobility or increase, your performance in your sport.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And there'll be a link to Bobby's episode. You need to watch the video on that one, and he demonstrates a number of his exercises. Yeah. What I like about the mat in particular, for someone who's a bit stupid about exercise like me, it shows you exactly where to put your feet and your hands. And then as you get good at that level, you just move into two different squares on the mat to make it a little harder, and you can track your progress, and there's no excuses for not putting your feet in the right place. I found it very clever. Yeah.
It is.
So there's links in the description of the video and a link to his episode. Two quick ones that I picked up on the health side was that some researchers discovered that synthetic caffeine might have a bad effect on aging, worse even than natural caffeine. And of course, the synthetic one is the one that's in many of our pop soda drinks and in energy drinks. So something to be careful of. And another research I saw was there's a link, it could be a link between IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and mental health. And they found that people with IBS are about suffer from depression or anxiety at about double the rate of people without IBS, and very high, 38% in this research suffered from anxiety and 27% from depression, which is significant. And IBS can affect 15% of the population. So if you've got IBS, you might want to think about that one too. I'll put links to that in the magazine. And that's it from me. Back to you, Kathleen.
Oh, well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next week. And until then, if you are interested in being a guest on our show, please visit us at theyakkingshow.com. Click on the contacts tab, and where you will find a short application form. So until next week, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.